Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom Hazard, to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Welcome back to Purchasing Truth, everyone. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And Bill, I think there are some things missing in America right now, and I think it's somewhat of an awareness of ethics. And I think that ethics, I don't know if you want to say its truth has been purchased, or it's being manipulated, or the lines of ethics and legality are getting blurred. So I thought it'd be good to check in on that today. What do you think?
Well, I appreciate that, Tom. I think one of the main things that we're actually struggling with is the collapse between what something is criminality and what something is ethical. This thing here, because the ethical piece is something that is over here, and then the criminal piece is here. If you only have one line, it's not criminal. It makes it very difficult for freedom to take place, because this ethical piece is different people can use the word respected differently. Different people can use the word loyalty differently. People can use the word truth differently. See, then is it criminal, or do we want to make a law about that ethical value or not? And one of the things that's really great about America is that America with a capital A is it has a range of things that are ethical that you could put rules around, and you could hold to a different standard rather than having the criminal line be crossed. And those are, once the criminal line gets crossed, then it's jail time. But once the ethical line is crossed, it's money in civil court. So you can say one company, if one company has a database and they have some salespeople working for them, and then they come from that company and they bring the database from that company into the new company that they're hiring at, is it criminal? It's really ethical more than they've stole this person's data. And instead of trying to prosecute a white collar crime on criminality, they try it as an ethical piece and say, give me a crap load of money or else,
Yeah.
or else it can move to that if you don't do that. And the person goes, yeah, that was ethically wrong. Our guy should not have done that, and they pay it out.
Well, and meanwhile, we have this impeachment process going on right now where there's a lot of argument going on that, well, it wasn't the right thing to do, or that act is troubling. It causes me concern. He shouldn't have said that. He shouldn't have done that. But, and there's a big but, right? That it doesn't rise to the level of impeachment. The implication being it has to be criminal to be impeachable, which I don't think is actually the case.
It is not true. Yeah, that part is not true. It does not have to be criminal. And just because the Nixon piece was more centered around the word break-in, and this one has initially centered around the phrase quid pro quo, the now has shifted to the word bribery.
Have you seen that? I've seen that. They finally got that memo.
And now this is a bribery piece.
Right.
And because the word bribery has an energetic value, that it's higher than the phrase quid pro quo. Why? Because it's Latin, it's a legal term, it's written a certain way, it's a college level phrase, and the general public is not living in the quid pro quo place, and that there's a problem with that because they're bribing their children all the time, and they're making quid pro quos all the time. And just for a footnote, Tom, we have no deals in our family and no bribery allowed in my family.
I've been
So
very impressed that I've seen you parent your children, and I'll tell you what, it's hard sometimes
so
as a
hard.
parent when you really need your child to do something, and of course they want, whether it be ice cream or to stay up a little later or to watch a show on a streaming device. Well, I may be, pardon me, I may be happy to let you do that if you can do this other thing that you really need to do. And there you go. It's so easy for a parent to
So
slip into
easy.
that.
So with the impeachment problem is that many parents were brought up with when they were raised, they were brought up with parents that would bribe them all the time, when they would use distraction qualities, when they would do these things. And we're seeing that happen at the presidential executive level, is shiny lure, shiny lure, shiny lure. Oh my gosh, we just got distracted because we're not following along with what you're doing to us. and regrettably, because so much of America has a part of that mindset. And I mean, so there's this book called Punished by Rewards. There's this book called Punished by a guy named Alfie Kohn. Great writer, read all of his stuff. But the Punished by Rewards book, it literally says the problem with the subtitle is the problem with gold stars, incentive plans, A's, praise, and other bribes. Notice the bribe is sitting on the back end of it. The problem with incentive plans. Well, if an incentive plan is one person gets to go to Hawaii for selling the most cars.
Right.
Now you got 10 other salespeople that are not going to Hawaii.
And so is the theory that you're demotivating them so much more?
Yeah. And what happens after the person goes to Hawaii once? What are you going to bribe them with next year? Then they could say to themselves, well, I really don't want to go to Bali. It's too hard. I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden they have no incentive to become the number one salesperson anywhere other than to challenge/win against their other colleagues, which is, I'm going to step on your hand, wrist, foot, throat to get there. you know, and again, the problem is in the bribery mindset, it's more than a twist. It's a literally handcuff. If you don't get this if you don't do this thing, you will not get this military aid that is going to save your people's lives. That's problematic, because now all of a sudden you're for 14 days from the time that they held it up, and it would have been longer, and they were going to do it until the whole thing broke.
Oh, until it came out. I know. I find that to be a really
That's very
hollow
Hollow.
argument where they say that, but they got the aid. Well, yeah, they got the aid because the story broke. I mean, did you seen all the news about how President Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine was supposed to be interviewed on CNN by, who is it, Zakaria or somebody like that?
Right.
And that got canceled because it came out. And so he didn't need to go on TV and say, we're starting these investigations, because it was out there. So,
now, I mean, even if he would have done it, it's like, well, these are just two leaders dealing with each other. It's like, you don't bribe people because their people are going to be, they're a powerful versus a weak nation. And you're going to pay for it if you do it. I mean, there's a short-term gain and a long-term cost. The long-term cost, and it depends. Is the Trump empire going to last 10 years after he's out? Is it going to, how long before the signs come down? Till he's associated with a company ethic that bribes people, and it's got a short-term boost. His funding is really great until he loses, and then everything goes away because he spent his ethics and has spent his integrity on the bribe, and you'll know this with a teenager, if they are not in relationship with, they will either crash you or crash themselves. They'll crash themselves in drugs. They crash you in anger and withdraw and never want to talk to you again because you bribed them the whole time and you never really trusted them and you don't really respect them because you had to bribe them. So ethics here. The challenge is that if somebody is and has the mindset that they are ethical and then being accused of not being ethical, if a rich person is saying, wait a minute, I'm not one of those crook rich guys, I'm one of those ethical rich guys, then what happens is it's like, I don't want to be in this group. But see, they can play their ethics card right there rather than being in the demonized groups. But they don't want to turn on their fellow rich guys. So all of a sudden they're kind of sad and torn, and they'll actually start to, I think we had one guy cry, one business billionaire guy or millionaire.
Oh, I remember that. I do.
He was crying on the news because, wait a minute, I'm one of the good guys. And the answer is yes, go ahead and turn on your other guys then. It says, we do have troubles with ethics in America. See, he could have took the high road right there and just said, you know what, we do have ethics. And from time to time, certain rich people do choose to use their money at the expense of others. I'm not one of them, but there are many that do, or some that do. Now, he could try to minimalize it. See, it's the same thing for regulations, Tom, that you can proportionalize and you can change the perception and the perspective on regulations. It'll sound like this. Businesses, there's that one bad apple, one bad apple, one bad apple. It's like, no, there's not one bad apple in the barrel. There's 100 apples and there are 30 bad apples that are siphoning off the system that needs to be regulated. Your industry is not regulating themselves, and those 30 bad apples are punishing the people to get their profits up, to get their bonuses, to get their incentives. But the narrative, they don't use the one bad apple anymore, but for literally 20 years, anytime there was a regulation breach where there was something really bad that happened to people and people died, well, this was this one instance, this was one bad apple, this is the one bad apple in the thing. It's like, no, that's not what's happening here. The proportion is that the industry is not self-regulating and not caring for itself. It's not standing to ethics, and it's literally allowing people to be poisoned and blah blah blah. So
wow. Well, I saw something that I think may relate to this ethics discussion. And actually I saw it on social media, but part of it we've heard in our news media. Do you remember hearing in the last month or so how Republicans all circled these memo of talking points for this impeachment battle, and things that they thought were good messages to be putting out there, right? Well, recently somebody was posting a response list for Nixon backers in the Watergate hearing, and it reads just the same if you read, and it really is this I think it plays into this ethics, discussion, because it's like, um, there's this person, Art Buchwald, I think his name is, put this in the newspaper in 1973 or 4 or whatever it was.
Mhm.
As a public service, I'm printing instant responses for loyal Nixonites when they are attacked at maybe a cocktail party or something like that. And one is, everyone does it. It's the first one. Everyone does it. And then there's the misdirection one. What about Chappaquiddick? I don't know how Chappaquiddick came into the whole Watergate thing, but that seems like an interesting misdirection. The whole whataboutism that we've seen happen a lot in arguments.
Right. That's right. That's right.
And well, a president can't keep track of everything his staff does. You can see some of, you could see Trump already throwing under the bus some of his, staff. And although we have the transcript of the phone call and people who heard the phone call with Zelensky, and so there's firsthand accounts. But I mean, it's very interesting when you see, things like, well, I'm waiting for this one. Nixon made a mistake. He's only human, right? I mean, when is that one going to come out for Trump, right? But very, very interesting. And where, I mean, we've talked about loyalty in the past, but I mean, all these ethics and where is the line and how long do you be loyal at the expense of truth? I mean, boy.
So let's go ahead and practice those, and let me provide a communication empathy experience to those. I think you gave me 4 of those. And let's just do a little role play for the folks to see how empathy can be taken out for a spin here. And stay with me in dialogue, and then we'll call end of scene, and then go to the next one. Okay.
All right, I like it. Okay.
So
all right.
So give me the first one there.
All right. So, well, a quid pro quo. So what? Everybody does it.
So you would like us, so you feel really confident that it's okay for a president to make a deal and create a situation where someone has to do something to get a reward, and it's okay to do it in this way that's not in alignment with the Constitution. Is that correct?
Well, that's hard to answer. I'm sorry, I dropped out of character already. That's not good.
No, because I painted you in the corner too quick.
Yeah.
So let me walk you. Well, let me walk the plank with you a little bit here. So you'd really like me here that it's okay that because everybody does it, the president gets to do it too. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you would like also to hear that you want me to trust the president and give him a break and just let him govern, correct?
Yes.
And you want me to just accept it because most of Americans voted, or at least through the electoral voted for him, and because he kind of played by the rules there, you would like him to be able to do whatever you'd like. Is that correct?
Yes.
See, now I got you. Now I got you at the end. Now
the last one was harder.
Yeah, because I got you at the edge of the plank. Now the plank is the metaphor I'm using is sort of like the pirates having people walk the plank on the ship, and there's sharks down there, or their ankles are tied, and their anchors are tied and their arms are tied, so they really can't swim, and they got to sort of float somehow, but clearly they're going to tire out and drown.
Right. Yeah.
So here's the drowning sentence then. It would be, I feel torn. I'm not sure how we're going to be able to honor the Constitution at the same time is allowing what the president did to stand. Should we just allow what the president did to be okay from now on for presidents?
Yes.
Is it okay for the next president to bribe a foreign leader, especially one that we are going to take advantage of, that's in dire straits, but we'd like them to do something on our behalf? And are we going to allow that to be a part of our Constitution at this time?
Well, I don't think what he did rises to the level of bribery.
Yeah. So should we then vote to change the Constitution to get rid of this this thing about foreign intervention. Should we go down that path? Should we do that? They are
You,
so
they're really gonna be twisted into a pretzel. Now that's the few people have the presence of mind to construct that kind of a empathetic exchange like you do, Bill, and that's
yeah.
unfortunate, because I do think, if they're prepared and skilled with some use of language, and
Right.
they can not get painted into a corner themselves, and paint the other side into a corner, but in a compassionate way that really, I mean, when you think about it,
Yeah.
that would be the pushback is, oh, but this isn't bribery. This doesn't rise to bribery. But okay, but then shall we fix this other thing if you don't want to call it bribery?
Yeah.
Should we make it so that it's illegal to request the help of a foreign entity, which, by the way, I think is already illegal? But
It is.
um,
But I asked them, do you want to change the rule then?
or make it a
If we're gonna,
constitutional issue, right?
are we gonna make this the new rule then? If we give your guy a pass, are we going to make this a rule then? So I guess maybe what you're advocating for is to change the rules so that we can do this, because what we're hearing right now is this thing's been done. So let's change the rule to meet your new ethical standard.
I see.
Now all of a sudden they are on the plank. Do you want to go down that plank? Because that's where your road ends. Your road ends by changing this. Your road doesn't end by giving your guy a pass and not giving the next guy a pass for whatever, for a sexual scandal or for a thing. So
very interesting.
So it's really important here.
So let's change Chappaquiddick to Burisma.
Yeah.
Right? Let's change. What about Chappaquiddick to what about Burisma, or what about the Bidens and corruption? Right?
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, sure.
Because that's been an argument that I've seen some try to make. Most recently, Rand Paul, I think, in an interview on Meet the Press, tried to make it the same thing, that what Joe Biden did as president of the United States was the same thing as what Trump's trying to do with Zelensky. And
just to do a false equivalency, right?
Right.
Okay, so let's go ahead and down that path and watch what empathy does to shift that.
Okay. Well, so what about, what Vice President Biden did, and with, investigating corruption, and, what about Hunter Biden and Burisma? That all that's the same as what Trump's trying to do.
Oh, it sounds like that you're feeling some confidence that there's some things that the Bidens did that need to be investigated. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you'd really like really some truth to be told about what happened with the Bidens in Ukraine. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you would like those things to be equal to what Trump has done. Is that correct?
Yes, it's the same.
Oh, okay. So the truth is, for you, is that these two things are equal.
Yes.
So it sounds like that you're requesting then that it's okay for the president to do something, even though we don't really have the evidence for what the Bidens did. In fact, that thing has been investigated. So you would just like to open it up again to see if anything is there just because someone said so? Is that what your thought is? You want to reopen investigation?
We don't really know what went on there. We need to know.
Oh, so you have the thought to take some time to create the idea of something happening when we already know that something happened with Trump. You want to create the idea and the stir that something bad happened, even though we already know that something's bad happened here. How about if we just deal with Trump on his thing, and then let's see what happens with the Biden and not make those two things equal. Would that be okay with you too? Let's do one at a time. Because ethically, what Trump did is not in alignment. And whether or not Joe and his son did something unethical, right now, we don't really particularly have any good evidence about that. We have a lot of things, of stories that were created. But right now, what we do have is some evidence and some situations about what President Trump did that is out of the line of ethics. How about if we finish the ethical thing on Trump first before we go into the thing that might have happened with the Bidens?
Yeah, well, they wouldn't just
No,
accept
there's
that.
there. But see, the thing is, it's not about them accepting, Tom. It's about them. It's about ending the argument push that's not real.
I see.
See, what it's about, how can I say it? It's stifling the talking point. It's putting a oxygen. Empathy robs the oxygen from false narratives.
That's a great quote right there. Empathy robs the oxygen, takes the oxygen out of the room
from false narratives.
From false narratives. I like that.
Yeah. You could try to argue. You could try to argue with somebody that's empathizing with you, but you really literally will run out somewhere between 3 to 5 sentences. They can't keep going because they're taking the oxygen away from it because it's following a non-truth until it becomes so much a non-truth, you don't want to say it anymore.
Well, and I would argue that most politicians would stick with repeating that non-truth over and over and over again, hoping that that's the message that sticks, even though it's really quite obvious to people observing this that their argument is really hollow.
The press is so making a mistake here. This is exactly where the press makes the mistake.
What are they doing?
What they're doing is they're chasing facts instead of discharging with empathy.
They always retreat to facts.
How about this? 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 It's like those are easy, especially for somebody that's in marketing and branding to bat back, ball back, ball back, ball back. And it's like, then all of a sudden you don't have anything.
It also sounds like a juvenile argument, I know you are, but what am I type of thing. I mean,
right.
It doesn't really resonate.
No, with a skilled marketing and salesperson that is a master of distraction. I mean, he is a master of look over here.
Yeah.
And what about this? But if an empathy sentence that they don't know what to do with, including Trump. And it's so funny. A colleague of mine says, "Oh yeah, but he's not going to." It's like, I'm not interested in what he's doing. I am interested in starving the oxygen from his words in a compassionate and parenting way. I am not interested in talking my kids out of ice cream. No, I'm interested in them having a healthy meal and finding the value in that before getting dosed up on sugar. That's what I'm interested in. And I'm interested in Trump finding the value of ethics through empathy. Now, you could say he's not empathetic. Of course he's not empathetic. He is a person that was brought up in tragic deal making and bribery. That's what he was brought up in. So when he says it's the perfect phone call, Tom, he's literally telling the truth.
Oh, he believes it.
From his mindset and from his upbringing and from his what people, I did that all the time in business. Well, I want you to do a favor though. It sounds like I'm talking to to the mob bosses that are going to pour concrete for my hotel. So I'm making something up, but it's
no, but it does sound like that, no question. And I'm sure Trump did that all the time in business, no question. There's a difference between business,
ethics,
and government,
corruption.
Yeah.
So do it, ethics and criminality. Do those two lines, ethics and criminality. See, is it criminal? And this is a good thing to take, for example. Is it criminal for wanting to, let me use really something really tragic. Yeah. Wanting to build houses for homeless, right?
Right.
Let's start there. I want to build a shelter for homeless, and I'm going to run it through the city,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
I'm going to pass a bill to build things for homeless. Now, is it criminal for all the different people to add their price on it so that that thing that could be built for $7,000 now costs $240,000 with all the consultants and the unions and all the different people that are adding their price onto the unit? Material wise, it cost me $7,000 to $13,000 to build a set of shelters, but you can't grift off of that small number, but you can start at this, and then all of a sudden it changes from not $240,000, it changes to $540,000. How the heck, how does it get so big? And this is the difference between it's not ethical,
But it's not illegal.
but it's not illegal,
Right.
and it's not criminal.
Right.
But
Right.
the answer is it is criminal because it is literally stealing from the taxpayer and and taking advantage of a situation. Again, it's like, what are they putting into those condos for homeless people for $540,000? Geez. Oh, I see. Well, we're going to put them in there now, and then they're going to price out, and then they're going to eventually go back into the system, get out there, and then we get to resell these units and still, again, have a profit piece in this, rather than, okay, we're doing this and then we're doing this and we're keeping it as cost effective as possible. No, we're not doing as cost effective as possible. What we're doing is how can everyone get paid along the line? That's not a Trump thing. That's a system problem, of scam and unethical behavior.
Well, and I think a lot of times in business, which is where Trump's experience is, you're going to do what is the most expedient. It's going to get things done quickly. And obviously, you want to get things done profitably in business. And, I'm sure Trump is one of his organization, and certainly him himself, is one of the best arm twisters to get people to do what he wants them to do. It's pretty easy to do when you have power and money. And really, we're seeing the same thing play out on the international stage. The only difference is when you're using the government system, people, process to twist an arm of a foreign leader to help you personally try to dig up dirt on a political rival, that crosses quite a few ethical lines, if not, criminal or illegal ones.
Yeah. Yeah. And the damage is done. See, it's not dig up dirt, Tom.
Oh no, it's brand, isn't it? It's label.
It is, I am going to rebrand this person as a possible person that is an advocate for corruption. Because, how does this person's son get $50,000 a month to sit on a board? When
Right.
I, as an American, 2/3, 1/3, 2/3 of Americans are making 50,000 for a year's worth of work.
Right.
And how does this privileged person see? It's pointing a finger at privilege and saying privilege is not fair. Therefore, he must be corrupt. See, that's already a shower that Joe Biden doesn't know how to rinse off. He doesn't know
Right.
how to
And
this off.
well, I agree. And because he's, if he obviously got some skills and coaching and
Yeah.
training, he could deal with this pretty easily, but
Yeah.
he's not equipped to do it. He doesn't have the
No.
experience to do it, and he is allowing himself to be put in that box and labeled and, well, really, what is it, tainted or smeared. I mean, he's
Right.
being smeared by it, right?
Right. He's being smeared by the box. Yeah, he's being smeared by the thing. And the response, no, I'm not, or that's not what happened,
Or even,
or
this has already been
this
investigated.
is
I mean,
none of those things are the correct kind of soap and water to be in the shower to get the stickiness off.
oh, I completely agree. And every single news piece that talks about the Bidens and Ukraine and Burisma,
Just
they always
reinforces
have
it.
the footnote that says, now, just it's like a footnote, and to be clear, there's been no evidence of any wrongdoing found by the Bidens. And then the news media is covered, and the footnote in the writings in the newspapers is, again, there's been no evidence of any wrongdoing found by the Bidens. That is not helpful. That is just
Not enough.
another fact that only angers people that are not of the belief that the Bidens are ethical people.
So the smear, the challenge that also was painted in the direction of the FBI, the doubt and skepticism about the integrity of those people, the State Department, the ethics integrity about those people, the CIA, although he didn't go all the way down the rabbit hole with the CIA to go after them, because that's not a good thing either. It's I'm also going to cast doubt and skepticism in the direction of these institutions and not trust leadership, because I'm going to take out Comey. I'm going to take out Mueller. I'm going to take out, see those people, and all of a sudden he's not faithfully executing the office of ethics and integrity. He is choosing to execute language narrative that activates doubt and skepticism in the institution and the individuals of that institution, and creates the speculation that something's over there. Tom, the Republicans are just the ones that are the defenders. It's not about truth. It's about planting the seeds of doubt and skepticism inside the mind of the listener, inside the mind of their voter, so they can feel better about voting for their identity, Republican, and just to get the vote. So it's a very, very short-term process, because there's only so much that can be done to keep that style of bribery going on, and that type of illusion to keep going. It's very, very hard to keep that going. So, I'm not sure how the McCarthy ending is going to show up, because there's a Nixon McCarthy ending showing up here. So that's
it feels actually it feels like what I remember reading about the days of McCarthy, that was labeling and diagnosing people as communist and all this sort of thing. It does feel that way. Interesting. Well, well, thanks for taking us down this sort of discussion about American ethics. I think it's very helpful to bring awareness anyway to what's happening.
And it starts us down the path of restoration of ethics and creating a great clarity line between what's something that's criminal and what's something that's ethical. And it's we don't want to get to a place where a politician or a state leader can just say, I don't like this person's message in my direction. And then I get to be, a person that gets to say who lives or dies by the message that they're speaking. We don't want to get to that place. So we want to keep ethics and criminality separate, because otherwise then you got some of the things you're seeing in some of these authoritarian places where, well, that person's, I'm going to execute or jail my political rivals because I don't like the thing they're saying.
Yeah, we can't get to that place. And believe me, things that I'm reading about, Trump wanting to fire people within his own White House staff that dare to testify and other things. We're getting very close to, that kind of a situation. It's pretty scary.
We are.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, look forward to our next one, where we'll take a look at how can we, purchase truth back by doing and taking on that action of, here is what you're saying that's wrong, and then we're going to empathize with what the person is saying rather than pointing out. So it's really about creating safety in a discussion of a alternative point of view. We want to create safety in the discussion. And that's what empathy allows us to do.
I think that's very important. Safety in discussions, especially around the holidays and people around the dinner table. Safety in discussions are very good. All right.
All right, Tom, have a good one.
Thanks, Bill. Bye.
All right, bye.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.